Realty, and today we're going to be focusing on how to run a CMA and also how to use the matrix for the home searches using the speed bar. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen the speed bar, but maybe some of you have used it, but it's a pretty cool device. So again, the agenda is just focusing on, like I said, the speed bar, and also there's 3 different CMA generating reports. The one we'll be focusing on tonight will be for quick CMA. So the speed bar, you always normally see that at the top. So let me open Matrix here. The speed bar is right here underneath the Add, Edit, Search, and Public Records. And it's a pretty handy tool. It does multiple searching, and you can search on any property if it's rental or lots or what have you. And you can use the speed bar. It's located on every screen, so every time you navigate through Matrix MLS, it's always there at the top. So let's do a quick demo. The speed bar allows you to do many searches. So for example, if you're in a rush or in a hurry, or a client calls you and says, hey, can you look up 2 properties for me? The speed bar is pretty handy rather than going to the criteria screen. So for example, if you go to Matrix MLS and then click on search, and you would have to like navigate through these and then click on single family and then start searching. But with the speed bar, it allows you to do a quick search of the property. So we'll start at the home on the home screen. So in this example, I have several different types of searches. One is searching for MLS numbers. So for example, if the client says, hey, can you look at these 2 MLSs for me and see if they're still available? In order to type in the MLS numbers, and the search bar, just type in the numbers just the way they're read. The only thing that you don't do is you don't put commas. You just put a space bar. So make sure you don't put a comma or any other type of symbol. Just put a space or use the space bar. So for example, here I'm clicking 2 MLS numbers. I go ahead and do a search, and these are rentals, by the way. And so once you do the search, it shows you the 2 MLS numbers and the rental information. So that's pretty handy. Other examples are, let's just say that the client is saying, hey, can you just look up this address, 9226 Palm Shores? You can literally just type that. So you can just click on, you have to erase it, of course, the speed bar. And it's asking for 9226 Palm Shores. Now, one thing that several new realtors or new agents make the mistake is they try to tend to put drive or court or something like that. Avoid doing that. Do not put that. Just put just the address itself. So if the address contains 2 names, of course just put 2 names. If it's just one name, just one name. But do not try to avoid doing drive or court, because it's not going to work. So once you do that, you can click on this little zoom, or you can and there it is. It'll find that particular address, and of course all the history for that address, and it'll indicate through the statuses. Status of A means active. That means it is still available. So let's just say that your client says, hey, I don't know what the street name is. I know the first word is Palm, P-A-L-M, but I don't know what the rest of it is. But can you still look for it? And you say, sure. There's a symbol that you can use. It's a wildcard. It's an asterisk. It's on the keyboard. It's located on the number 8. And what you can do is, let's just say you don't know how to spell, or you don't know the rest of the spelling of the street name. You can just put an asterisk. Okay. So this, what it's saying here to the speed bar is, hey, here's the address number, and here's the street name, Palm, but I don't know the rest of it. And make sure that the wildcard is next to the word. Don't put a space and then wildcard or the asterisk. Make sure it's right adjacent to it. And then when you click that, of course, it searches for that. And it gives, now in this particular case, it worked well, so not a problem. Okay. Let's just say that your client now says, guess what, Fernando, I don't know the street number either. I just know that it's called Palm. That's all. That's all. I was in a rush and I just saw the street name and it just said Palm, and that's all I can remember. I don't know the street number. I don't know anything else. Well, that's okay. You can still do searches that way. The real neat thing about the speed bar is that you don't have to put an address number. You can just put asterisk and then Palm and then asterisk again. So what this does is telling the speed bar, find me anything with Palm in it as far as the street name. And of course it's going to give you a longer list. But at least this way you can, do searches and go, oh, well, let me at least see where, what, well, this looks like it's not working here. Yeah, here it is. So it's a little slow, but as you can see, my matrix results, it's everything with the word Palm, as you can see. There might be other words in it as far as the street name, but like for example here, Royce Palm Drive, it has the word Palm in it. So I know it's a little, cumbersome because there's just a lot of, but the client of yours didn't give you sufficient information anyway. And so you can always do, and of course you can check to see if they're still active as well. So this one gave me a lot of palms, but at least that's one way of using the wildcard. So it's pretty handy. Another thing that I like to, that's really neat, is if you're looking for an agent information, let's just say that you're dealing with the lease or something like that, or you're the listing agent, or you just want to know if the person you're speaking to is an agent. There's a command called AG, and like for example, I'm going to put Fernando in my name. AG means agent. You can do a search, and it'll find me in the database. See, here I am. Here's my contact information. So there's a lot of commands, and I'll talk about those in the next slide. But the speed bar is pretty handy and pretty powerful tool.
I have a question,
Yes, ma'am.
Fernando. When you look up an agent, when you do AG Fernando, will
Yes,
that take you to your listings, or will that just take you to
no,
your public?
Right. It just does the actual the name search. Like if you're trying to do you want to see the agent's listings.
Right.
I know you can do it through the office number. But see how it says agent MLS ID?
Yes.
Why don't we do this? Let's do single family and see if this will work. That's a good question. You can add a field too. You can add a certain, and I had talked about this in another webinar, but as far as adding fields, but our criterias. But let's just see how that will work. Because I do have a report that I run that shows me all the listings for my agents. But it's from the broker side, not from an individual agent. But you can go into here, and then you can create a add remove field. And this is under criteria. Sorry, I might be going a little fast. And then you click on add remove field. And then let's look for agent MLS ID. Let's see if you can do that. Thank you for the challenging question. So let's see if it's not available in here, you probably can't do it. So it doesn't look like there is agent. There is, oh, here's a list agent MLS ID. There it is. Click on add. And so now it's added. Now you can click on back and let's see what it looks like. So what we're doing here is we're just adding a criteria or a field, a search field within the criteria screen, because it's probably not in here. So now here's the list agent MLS ID. So here's where you would type it in. And see if it says anything here. Oh, this is just a help. Let's see what would happen if I type my name. 0 results. We would have to play around with it. But yeah, you would have to add a field here. I don't know if that's the right field. It says list agent, and I do have listings, but we can take it offline and play around with it a little bit. But that's what I would think you would have to do. But that's a good question. Thank you. So let's look at shorthand examples. So you can there's additional there's a help within the speed bar. Sorry, somebody was calling me on the phone and got distracted there. And there is a help that you can click up here. There's a right on the left side, and it gives you several commands, and it's a really long help file. And you can look up, but just briefly, like if you wanted to type search for active, it would be ACT, the command. Close, it would be the COLSD. Property type, residential, and so on and so forth. So, for example, here, let's just say a client says, hey, I'm looking for rentals in the zip code 77375. That is, well, I should have said that is between 1,400 and 1,600 per month, and it has only 4 bedrooms. So this would be the command that you would type. Okay, so we can even try that out. I can see if it works, if I can copy that. Then go in here, see if it works. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to type it manually. But it's pretty cool because once you get to know the command sequences, you can really find data really quickly. So let me show you what it looks like. So ACT, which means active, rentals is RNT, and the zip code 77375 with the rental amounts of 1,400 through 1,600. Now, one thing that the speed bar doesn't allow is for you to put double dollar signs. They only require $1 sign. And then 4 bedrooms. So let's go ahead and see if we can find that. Click on search. And here are the results coming up. So once you get to know the command sequences, I mean, of course, it's probably best to go into the search criteria because that will give you a more data manipulation, more choices. But like if you're trying to do something really fast just to see what's going on, the speed bar is really, really helpful. I use it quite a bit actually, because after a while you get to know these commands. But here you are. Here's the results for active that are rentals in the 77375 zip code between 1,400 and 1,600 that are 4 bedroom. Now, in a previous webinar, I actually showed how to insert a field, and I can just do that real briefly here. You get this cross arrows, and then you can do an insert column. And then like here, I would type zip code, for example. And then do an apply. And it will actually insert the zip code column in your data view, which is pretty neat. Except my system's a little slow here. Also, if you're familiar with Microsoft Excel, you see how now the zip code, it says here zip code 77375. You can also move the data around and You can also sort as well by clicking on the headers of the columns. So, but that's pretty neat about this speed bar. Now, so here you are. You're like, okay, we got the results. What do I do with it? How do I save it? You don't want to write it down on a piece of paper and go, oh, my client told me to find some rentals real quick, and I found, these rental lists. How many are there? There's 9 of them. How do I save them so I can retain it and then come back to it later? Now, there's many ways of saving your results. One is new save search and new auto email. I know I spoke about this in another webinar about how to do new auto email, so you can go back to that webinar training. But you can also save it as a new speed bar shortcut. And that's pretty handy because you can recall what you just did as far as that search command and now call it something, and then you can always go back and retrieve it. So that's pretty handy. And it's called a new speed bar shortcut. And the way that works is once you have it saved, you actually use a backslash. And so, for example, we're going to go ahead and save this results because, hey, we want to just save them because we want to get back to them at a later time. I'm waiting here for it to. There it goes. Oh, and before I go further on this, one thing that I thought about before the class is you can also save. I don't know if you guys use the cart feature, but the carts, it allows you to save data. And if you already have customers or clients already where you're saving them a report, like for example, here I have Carson Bowman, and they have 5 results that I've saved for them because they told me that they might want to see them at a later date. But this, you can also save these and go, oh, these are great for, my client. You can either save it in my all properties. That means just in general, it's a general bucket. Or you can save it with the individual, or you can actually create a new contact. And then if you, for some reason, you don't have them, or they spoke to you in the streets or whatever, and go, hey, if you do find XYZ properties, can you, keep track of them? And you can say, oh, sure. And if you don't have them as a contact, you can actually just create a new contact and save them. It doesn't do nothing. It's just a temporary holding spot. So there's nothing fancy. But anyway, that cart's pretty neat. I use it quite a bit actually because sometimes I get so many phone calls and they're like, hey, can you look for this? And then I'm doing searches and I spot something that might be interesting to that particular person. Like, for example, let's just say that this results of the 9 is for a certain person. But there's this one house that I found that had, I don't know, a living room and a formal dining room or something like, an additional space for them. You can literally just click that one row and save it as well for that particular person. So like that, you don't forget the next time. So it's pretty neat. So try to use the carts. Those are real helpful for temporary storage of these results. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to save this as a shortcut. It's called a new speed bar shortcut. So we're going to click on save and see how it says right here, new speed bar shortcut. So we're going to click on that. And then it's going to ask us for a name. What do you want to call it? Because remember, you want to be able to type this in the speed bar as a name. And so here's my other speed bars that I use. So for example, let's just say that these are rentals. I already got rentals in 77375. Let's see if it works. Now keep in mind that the speed bar name cannot have any spaces. It has to be with no space. So if you want to put a space, put an underscore. If you don't want to put a space, an underscore, then put it all together. It cannot contain spaces. The reason why it cannot contain spaces is because a space in the speed bar thinks it's a command, and that's the reason. So the name of this speed bar is going to be /rentals_in_77375. And then you click down here where it says save. And it saves it. Oh, it says it already exists. So we'll just call it, instead of 77375, let's call it in Tomball or something. Just so we can give it another name for this demo. Yeah, it looks like it doesn't allow you to do multiple saves of the same name. So I'm going to say rentals in Tomball because that's 77375 zip code where I live. So now up here it says create shortcut or created shortcut, past tense. So now it's done. So let's just say that you saved it and it's the next day now. I usually like to start from the home page, just so kind of start from scratch, you can say, with the clear screen. And so now I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to check to see how those rentals are, or this is if they're still active or what have you. So in order to use a shortcut, as I mentioned before, you have to put this backslash. Okay. So we do backslash, and it doesn't matter if it's uppercase or lowercase. So rentals. Remember, there's no spaces, so I have to use underscore because that's what I called it. And that's what you type. So now this is the name of my shortcut. Okay. And then you can invoke it. And you can have as many shortcuts. There is no limit. As you can tell when you saw mine, I had 3 of them. So here they are. So there's your shortcut. Speed bar shortcut. It's pretty neat. So once you create a search and you like it, go ahead and save it, because you know us, we do multitasking all the time, and there's that, man, I had a real great search. It showed me everything I needed for it to show me, and you forgot how you got there. So it's real neat to do that speed bar shortcut. Hopefully that was a little intuitive and not so hard to understand. Okay, so last question of the speed bar is, okay, Fernando, I know how to create them. How do I delete them? It's like, I don't even know. Is there a delete button somewhere? How do I do that? So deleting the speed bar shortcuts, the way you do it is you go to My Matrix and then Settings, and then click on the speed bar shortcuts, and then select the shortcut itself. So let's go ahead and do that. So you go to My Matrix, and then Settings, and I apologize, my computer is a little slow, and then click on the speed bar shortcut. See here it tells you how many you have. Number of speed bar shortcuts is 4. And here's the 4 that I have. Another thing that's really cool before you delete it, let's just say that you went, man, this is real helpful, but I'm not really using it right now. I mean, it gives you the criteria, the description of the criteria too, like it was single family, you selected active option, active, option pending, and so on. The search date, it was a bedroom number 4, and so on and so forth. So these shortcuts are real neat because it tells you how it's built, you can say. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and delete the rentals in Tomball. That's the one I created. Click on delete. It says, are you sure you want to delete it? And you say yes. And now it's gone. So that's how you delete the speed bar shortcuts. Not bad. But it should be helpful. So in case you're playing around with this and you create several of them, you're like, I've got 10 of them. I don't think I need that many. You can delete them now. So let's see if there's anything else before we move on to the CMA. While I'm checking here. Is there anything, any questions regarding the speed bar? Just remember, your phones might be on mute. So, okay. So let's go ahead and get started on the CMAs. The CMA, I know this is something that us as agents, we always have to perform. And that's with all our clients. Our clients are always going to ask us questions like, oh, realtor or agent, do you think that house is priced too high or too low, or hey, if you're talking to a seller and he wants to sell his house for $1 million when it's only really worth 300,000, you're gonna have to run a CMA and go, hey, let's be realistic here. The CMA data shows that it's only worth 300,000, and of course they want to sell it for $1 million. So anyway, so CMAs are something that us as agents always have to do and perform, and that's something that has to be you can say, in our DNA. Now, Matrix provides three different types of CMAs. One's called the CMA Wizard. Another one's a Cloud CMA. That Cloud CMA is really only for Platinum subscribers. So if you're not a Platinum subscriber, you're not going to be able to access it. Besides the Platinum subscriber, there's other things that the Platinum subscriber gives you as far as benefits. Like, they give you a website also, and there's other things. There's many things, but one of them
is the Cloud CMA free to use if you are a Platinum member?
Yes.
Okay.
The Cloud CMA is free. Well, nothing's free because you're paying for it, but yeah, if you want to, I will say, I should say it's enabled for you to use, but it's not free because you're paying it through Platinum subscriber. And then the last one that I tend to use the most is Quick CMA. So let's go ahead and play around with these. Before we do Quick CMA, I wanted to show you the other ones. So what I normally tell my agents and other agents whenever they're doing a CMA is you're always going to start off with doing a search. Search is the one that is the first step for doing a CMA. So, you begin with the search, and then you're going to have to select the criteria of it. So, before we move on to Quick CMA, let's go ahead and do a search here. We're going to do single family. Now, whenever I go into search single family, didn't look like it's connected. It's going to take you to the criteria screen. And sorry, my computer's kind of slow here. All right. So what I normally do is whenever I do a CMA, I usually select the statuses of active, option pending, pending continue to show, pending, and sold. The reason why I do that is because I like to see history. And what's the current status of that particular area. So normally I always recommend to select these because it will show you the activity of what's happening in that particular subdivision, which is going to help you whenever you're speaking to a seller, especially if the seller is trying to sell his property. I think, Natasha, can you put your phone on mute real quick? Okay, thank you. Sorry, there was some background noise there. And so I normally tell people to go ahead, or tell agents to go ahead and select all these. Hopefully you guys are familiar with these statuses. Just briefly, option pending means that there's a contract in place and there's home inspections being conducted. Pending continue to show means that it's going through another phase, but the seller is not too sure about the buyer's financing, that it's going well or not. So he would like to continue to show that property to receive backup offers. And then the pending is just, that it's moving forward, and then we're just waiting for the close, and of course then the sold. Now you notice that the sold has an indicator automatically that puts 0 to 180. That's 6 months, and 6 months is a standard that we use as agents, and I'm sure you learned this also in school, that it's 6 months of history of sold data that should be utilized to conduct the CMA. So that's the reason for that. Now another thing that I focus on is this middle yellow shaded area. It's the map search, or here's where you would type in the address. So for example, if you're focusing on an address where you're going to be selling it, you would type in the address, and then it'll locate the property, and then it'll provide a radius of 0.25 miles, and it'll say map area selected. So that's a good starting point. Of course, you can adjust it as you're doing the analysis. Another thing that I like to do whenever I do CMAs is we do not want to include distressed properties, because we want to compare apples with apples and oranges with oranges. So what I also recommend is go under disclosures and select the distressed properties, and the distressed properties in the disclosures are corporate listings, foreclosures, and short sales. Okay, those are the three that I recommend you selecting, and then you select the word not, N-O-T. There's a radio button called not. That means that's telling the system do not include short sale, foreclosures, or corporate listings. Corporate listings is another word for REOs, which means real estate owned, and they're considered foreclosures as well. And what we're telling the system is, hey, I'm going to be running a CMA. I don't want these distressed properties in my analysis.
What was it again? Corporate listing, short sales, and what? Distress?
No. They're all called distress, but the ones that you select in the system is corporate listing, foreclosure, and short sales.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, short sales are considered pre-foreclosures. Okay, thank you. Well, that led to that question, that short sales is called pre-foreclosures. Okay, and make sure that the not is selected. That's very important. So then now you're.
Hey,
yes, go ahead.
Quick thing. Also, the corporate can also be relocation companies.
Oh, good point. Thank you. So like Natasha said, that these corporate listings can also be relocation companies as well, which they're trying to sell the property because an employee is leaving or moving. Okay, so when you click on results, then you're only going to see non-distressed properties, but they're all the properties that are active, and all the rest of the statuses of pending and sold. Okay. I'm sorting it here. Now, one thing that, and let's look at our presentation here. So I mentioned earlier that we begin with the search. We select the statuses of active, option pending, continue to show, pending, and sold. Do not include distressed properties. Also, what's important is selecting the characteristics of the home, like for example, all 4 bedrooms. Another key item that you need to be familiar with is the building square feet. A lot of us agents will use 10% or 15% plus or minus. So for example, if it's a 2,000 square foot house that you're focusing on, then it would be 2,000 times 10%, and then you add, or 2,000 or you do 10% and then do a minus. So that would be the range for the high and the medium. I'm sorry, the low and the high. Okay. So now here you notice that my CMA contains a lot of properties, but they're a mixture of 3 and 4 bedrooms. Okay, and also a mixture of square footages as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on criteria, and only going to tell it, oh, just give me 4-bedroom houses, because those are the ones that I'm focusing on for this particular CMA. Once you do 4, then the results will be shorter, because now it's more concise. So now I only have 9. So and I can adjust the square footage as well, like I said earlier, but I'm just going to continue with the training or with the demo. So once you're done with that, you can click on all the results and click on Quick CMA. So down here it says Quick CMA. You see that? There's also CMA and the Cloud CMA. The Cloud CMA, like I said, is you have to be a subscriber, a platinum subscriber, and then the CMA over here is just the CMA wizard. And I'm going to talk about this in a moment once we're done with the Quick CMA. So we're going to click on Quick CMA. Now what Quick CMA does is it'll generate the statistics in a PDF file format. This PDF file format, you can actually download it, you can email it, you can print it out, and it's pretty handy. And I usually take these to my meetings. It could be both seller or buyer meetings. Usually you take them for the seller because you're trying to list their house for sale and you're looking for a range.
Fernando, I have a quick question.
Go for it.
Do you include the year built?
Yes, there are some particular neighborhoods that you have to do that. On this neighborhood that I'm focusing on is where I live, so I don't have to do that. But yes, and actually I was going to talk about that in a little bit on my other slide. But yes,
okay,
yeah. So here's the PDF file that it generates, and it always sorts it by the things that you selected in the statuses. So it's sorted by active first, then pending, and then sold. And it's got a pretty neat data, and also it has your banner, because here you can customize the banner. You can, it's got your contact information. One thing that's real helpful with this PDF file too is it is right here on the top header. It tells you the criteria that you're using. That it's single family. It's got the date range of 6 months. It also has the disclosures that you're saying it's not corporate listing, foreclosure, and short sale. So it's pretty neat because it tells you how you created this CMA report. And so, of course, it breaks it down to the properties and the bedrooms and the year built. And as you can see, they're pretty much all similar year built. Also the CDOM, which is the days on the market, cumulative days on the market. It tells you how long the properties have been on the market. This is real good to have a discussion with the seller, and of course the buyer too, but precisely the seller, because if the seller is saying, oh, how fast are the properties in the area selling? Well, guess what? Right here in this area so far, of course this is not sold data yet. We're not looking at that data yet, but so far there's 3 listings, and 2 of them are above 50 days, and then another one just got started. So if you list your house now, and of course it's the holidays, so it might not be as active unless we have it priced right. So this is real good data to interpret as you're talking to your sellers, to list their house for sale. Also, what I really like to look at is the pending and option pendings. Of course, here we only have 1 pending, but the pending and option pending is real helpful because it tells you what is happening, what houses are being attracted to buyers, and there's offers. So if the option pendings and the pendings that you see as far as data, if the house prices are lower, and then that could give you like a foreshadowing of, oh, it looks like the attraction are these type of prices, or even the type of house it is, Or maybe the houses are located near a lake and those sell better than the ones that are not near a lake. So you can actually do a pretty good analysis by reading this data. And then the most important one, of course, is the sold data. The sold data actually gives you the true statistical interpretation of what's being sold in that area within the last 6 months. And here you can really look at, like I like to look at the list price versus the the sold price. These two columns are so critical because they give you like an insight of, okay, for this particular house, the list price was 163. Well, what did it sell for? Oh, 163. So over here, the last column, it says 100%. That means that you got 100% the way you listed it. The next one, 173,500. Oh, but guess what? It sold for 167. Well, you can interpret it in many ways. You can say, okay, is it what the house inside looked like? Is it, because there's three things that sell a house or doesn't sell a house. It's condition, price, and location. So those are the three items that, can sell a house or don't sell a house. And you can always look at the MLS and look at the pictures or even do a drive-by and see what it looks like. But also here, the CDOM, which means the cumulative days on the market, it was 68 days that it took. And then there's this other one over here that says 4 days. Wow. And you can do some analysis and go, okay, well, what's happening in this subdivision? My favorite page of this CMA, quick CMAs, the quick statistics. I love this page or this section. This one gives you a synopsis of the minimum, maximum, average, median prices. The rows that I like to look at and focus on is the sold price row. And then I like to look at the min, the max, and average. The way I see this and interpret it is kind of like if a lot of you guys might be familiar with the Kelley Blue Book. The Kelley Blue Book is a website that uses to tell you the value of vehicles. And they have a system that has the value of a certain car, certain model, certain, condition. It'll say it's an excellent condition, and here's the value of that vehicle. It's an average or good condition. Here's the average. Here's the price for that vehicle if you bought it, and then here's the fair market value of that. So it's got a excellent, good, and fair. Well, that's the way I see this as well, except here we're using the word max. So max to me means excellent, average means good, and then minimum would mean fair. And you as agents, that's why sometimes our sellers will say, hey, well, how much do you think my house is worth? You can generate a CMA, but you really need to see the house inside. They might tell you that the house looks great, but there could be several different color types inside, or it could be mismatched tile. Who knows? It could be Formica countertops and not granite countertops, mismatched appliances, and they're thinking that it should be in the max range when probably not. So, you can always send them a CMA, and of course put a disclosure that, hey, I need to see the house first. But you can give them a ballpark. But you say, hey, I need to schedule an appointment, and let's further discuss the property. But anyway, and the row that you should focus on is the sold price. Okay. Another thing that is, in particular, the investors, they talk a lot about the sold price per square foot. They tend to look at that as their analysis tool. So that's one thing that whenever you're working with investors, they like to see this row, the sold price per square foot, because they like to see, what, when they're buying distressed properties, what is the sold price? And then of course they always like to negotiate. And I'm sure Natasha can elaborate that a little bit with the investors. She deals with a lot of those and clients. Okay, so let's see, we got everything. Oh, another thing that Natasha brought up is, is, you really want to have similar properties that you're doing an analysis of. The most easy ones are the square footage and the number of bedrooms, but also, the year built, because there's going to be a lot of mixed, blended neighborhoods where you see, older homes, and then you see brand new homes being built in another section. So keep that in mind as well. And one thing that's real helpful, and Natasha had mentioned for me to bring this up, is going into the map search as well. You know how I told you just type in an address and generate the report. But if you click on the map, one thing that's real important as an agent is to see if there's any lakes, or the section of where all the new houses are being built versus the section of all the older houses. And you can create a map and adjust this data before you generate the CMA report, because right now it's just a circle. But if you're familiar with the area, or your sellers tell you, oh, as you're talking to them or visiting them, they say, you know what, but that section over there is, different because they have a lake, or that section is you can adjust the CMA, and you should do that too, because you don't want to give them a data that is higher price when it's really not high priced. So that's something that you need to, and that's really hard to teach. It's something that you need to learn about the actual area of the subdivision. So, but you can do adjustments. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the map, but one thing that I like to use sometimes is, like, here's a circle here, and so let's just say, for example, here in this area, this particular subdivision, or this little section shouldn't be included. You can actually create another draw, or you can draw another circle, and put it inside this. And let's just say that you're speaking to the sellers, and they go, oh, but this area right here is not part of our subdivision, or what have you. You can create a circle or any kind of polygon, and then do exclude this shape. That tells the system, go ahead and include everything that's shaded in blue, but this red shade, do not include it in my results, thus not including it in the CMA as well. So that's real helpful to do too. So if for some reason you go, oh, well, this area is a little section, and sometimes you will notice that subdivisions will have a wrapper, like they wrap around a certain area. You can do that exclusion, and that's real helpful. Okay. So let me see if I have anything else here to do. Yeah. Another thing about the CMAs is, again, like I mentioned, is make sure that there's similar properties, bedrooms, square footage, areas, non-distress. The data needs to be 6 months of history minimum, or maximum, I should say. I have the wrong word here. And you should at least have 3 sold. If you only find 2 sold, you have to increase it to 3. So the minimum of CMAs, it has to be 3 sold in order to have a real accurate CMA. Now you're going to be challenged a lot, because there's going to be times where you're not going to be able to find 6 months of data, and you might have to go, expand it more. That's okay, but don't go like 3 years. Kind of do 7 months and see if the main goal is to get to 3. So let's just say you're at 2 and you have 6 months and you really need 3. Just increase the data to 7 months and then 8 months until you get to 3. Or you might have to adjust the square footage as well. Now keep in mind, this is just a comparative market analysis. You're not an appraisal. They're still going to have an appraiser. So you're not an appraiser unless you do have that as a secondary license. But anyway. So I'm going to just pause real quick. Yes, Natasha.
Hey, another good thing for having at least 3 comps is because when the appraiser does his job, he is going to have at least 3 comps. And sometimes there are questions with comparables with the appraisal. So that way you at least know your area and your market, so that if the questions do arise, you have the ability to pull comps that match your price to justify.
Correct. Good one right there. Thank you. That's real helpful. That's really true. The appraisers do use 3 houses that are similar. And yes, appraisers do go inside the house as well. Another thing I wanted to jump into is now I'm going to invoke these other CMAs so you guys can kind of take a look at it. We're gonna look at the CMA wizard. Now the CMA wizard is real helpful when you're going to be doing a listing presentation, and let's just say you already have a packet of things that you take for listing. The CMA wizard actually generates several pages of informational data, like geographical data, and it's just different types of information. And the way to do that is you can just you have to click on each one of these, and it does take a little bit of time to do it. But you have to create a name, like a new contact name, or your let's just find somebody here that's already here, and then give it a description, and then you click on pages. Now, one thing, if this is your first time looking at CMA Wizard, what I recommend or suggest is go ahead and select all these available pages and see what they look like. So for the cover, go ahead and select both of those. For the subject and adjustments, go ahead and select all of those. Of course, don't print it out because you're going to waste a lot of paper. It will print it as a PDF file, or you can look at it as a PDF, but don't print it out because you're going to waste a lot of paper. But I would suggest, if you want to see what every single one of these does, I would click on each one of them. And the way to do that is you click on it, and then you see how it over here on the right hand side, it shows you that it selected it. And then you can click on that, and you can just click on those. If you made a mistake and you say, oh no, I don't want that, you can just click this X, and it returns it back. So, but I would suggest just click on each one of these and see what it looks like. Do a practice run. It does take a while to generate as well because it creates a PDF file. So please have patience. Like if you're doing this in the morning, just get some coffee and just let it run. Don't interrupt it. I'm going to see if there's a demo that I have here of one of my matrix CMAs that I generated. I don't know if I have one or not. But yeah, it is a little time consuming to generate it. And also the cloud CMA, I'm going to jump into that and show you something about cloud CMA. Okay, here it is. So I'm going to open this one up and see if I can show you what it looks like. I had already generated this yesterday, so because it takes a while to generate. Oh, here it goes. It still says it's generating. And again, you can take this to your listing appointments. It's pretty fancy. So let me see if there's anything else. Oh yeah. So I already spoke about that. This is a PDF file. Okay. I'm still waiting for it to load. As you can tell, it takes a while. Here it is. It's coming up. So if I had to put a picture in there, it would show the picture of the house. And then here's my information, and this is what it looks like. Keep in mind, this is called the CMA wizard. Okay. And so it's got the information compared to market analysis. It looks pretty colorful. You can customize the colors. They're called themes. And then, like here it says the CMA properties that you picked to conduct the CMA, which is the 3. See if there's anything else that shows. It's got a lot of price history chart. It looks pretty fancy stuff. Now this does come free, or you're paying it through your HAR fees, but it is accessible by all of us. Okay. And then I wanted to show you the other one that the CMA Cloud. That's the one that's a subscription only. I wanted to show you that one has a similarity, except there's a new feature, or there's a feature that I always use, and it's printing flyers, actually. Let me see. I'm going to do my old search here. So I'm going back to my old searches, or my recent search that I did, so I can show you. Apologize for the system being slow here. Okay, so let's click on results. Now what I'm going to do is invoke Cloud CMA. And I think on y'all's, if you're not a subscriber, I believe it's not it's shaded. I have the strong feeling if you look at your command bar, this is called a command bar, I think yours might be grayed out if you're not subscribing to it. So the Cloud CMA is similar to the CMA Wizard, but it contains additional data that it generates. But also one thing that I like that it also offers is creating flyers for you. And I use them a lot for open houses, especially the open house trainings that I conduct, because you can type in anybody's MLS number. It doesn't matter if it's, if it's not yours, and you can just type in the MLS number, and it generates it spits out a flyer, and you can customize it for generating open house flyers, or just listed, or what have you. But this is what it looks like. And you notice here it says CMA. It's kind of similar. It asks you a lot of questions. This one asks you more detailed information about the property, like the square footage and beds, and you can input the picture of the house. But I wanted to show you the flyer section. So the CMA Wizard doesn't include the flyer mechanism, but the subscription, when you subscribe, the CMA Cloud does have a flyer option. And like I already have some here already, I can just open this up. But again, you can create themes. It grabs the pictures from the MLS, so you don't have to worry about that. And it grabs the description from the MLS, from the public remarks. And it also puts in your contact information as well. And so here it is. It's loading, and you can print it out and color and email it. It's a PDF file. So so here's the open house, or one of them that it uses. And I use a simple one, but there's a lot of them. There's a lot of choices that you can have, a lot of pictures and all that. I think it's got 12 themes. So, but it does generate flyers for you if you like, which is pretty handy. Okay. Natasha, anything else to add on the CMA, generating CMAs, that you would like to add? I don't know if she's still with us or not. Oh, I think we lost her. Oh, okay. Does anyone have any?
So you didn't include any withdrawn or terminated properties on the CMA, quick CMA. Is it better to include this type of properties so you can see, let's say somebody put a price, which is much higher than the average price on the house in the area, and it's been withdrawn because of that.
Yes, that's fine to do. Yes, you can even do terminated and expired.
Yeah, expired as well. Yeah, I
Right,
forgot about
because terminate expired means that the seller did not want to renew anymore,
Yes.
right? And then the terminated means that they decided not to put it on the market anymore. So there's two, those are two meanings, right? But yes, it would be very helpful to do that, and you can include that in your search, and then that way, whenever you generate the CMA, um, you can then discuss it with them and go, hey, look at what happened, you know, and it could be because the price was overpriced. Exactly. That's a very good, that's very good analysis there.
Okay. What would be a good ratio for these properties? Let's say free sold, free active, or just free of all of them, or free to free, something like that.
You're using the word free?
No, free as a number, free.
Oh,
3.
yeah. So no, okay. So for sold, it should be minimum of 3. The rest of them doesn't matter.
Okay.
Only the sold matters, that it has to be 3 or above. It can be 3 or above, but it can't be 3 or less than 3. It
Okay.
has to be 3 or more. But as far as expired and terminated and all that, no, that doesn't matter. There could be as many as, or there can be none. It doesn't really matter.
All right. Thanks so much.
Sure. I hope it was helpful.
Okay.
I really like to use the quick. So if I was doing like a listing appointments or anything like that, I would probably do a CMA, which is the one that's the CMA wizard, which is already included with you guys, and also do the quick CMA, because then the quick CMA, you know, it's almost like a summary, right? Because the other report, you saw how long it was. I mean, can you imagine this? How many pages is this sucker? I mean, I think it looks 50 pages long. I don't think you want to sit by with a customer, with a client with 50 pages. I mean, it's okay to print it out and make it look pretty, but then I would kind of like focus on this one. You see, this is only 2 pages long, and it gives you a summary. So, but this is my favorite. Quick CMA is my favorite tool to use. Does anybody have any questions regarding the CMA? Hopefully it was helpful. And I really, if there's no more questions, I really appreciate everybody's time, and go sell some more.
Thank you, Fernando.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.